A new pope. That's my new Star Wars parody. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Les De La Cabra. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so before we get into the ranking of all 10 Best Picture nominees in the year of our Lord 2025 for the Oscar Awards, let me throw out my quick plugs. If you're at all interested in in-depth discussions on cult and art house films, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave me lovely comments to read. Share this with a fellow pal, anyone who you think might find this valuable. That would help me out substantially. And if you think the work that I do is valuable and you want to support it monetarily, there's also links in the description for my Patreon, whereby you will gain access to benefits. And then we can be friends with benefits. That's what that means, right? Okay. So the Oscars are tomorrow at the time of recording this, and hopefully at the time of me uploading this. Not exactly evergreen content or anything like that, but I mean, if you just want to hear my ranking of these in the future and you want to hear recommendations or whatever, I mean, you're in the right place. These takes will stand in the future, so to speak, as it were, right? So okay, let's just go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be ranking all 10 of these things, and let's start at the bottom. We're going to be going from worst to best, and at the very bottom, the only one of these films that I don't like, and the only one of these films that I actively hate, is one Emilia Perez. Fuck this movie. Fuck everything about this movie. I hate it more the more I think about it. I'm more at a loss. The acclaim that it has received, the more I think about it and the more I read about it. Like, the trans representation is awful. That's fine. I get that. I was not quite aware to the extent of how bad the Mexican representation was. I don't know if you knew this, but they don't have jury trials in Mexico. The language is like clearly like taken at least in part from Google Translate. It is not created or edited by native Mexican speakers. It is truly just an abysmal, abysmal work, and I don't like anything about it. It's shockingly bad, and I don't have anything nice to say about it. Not even Zoe Saldana, who I know is been selected as like the one exception to how awful this is, that like her performance is good, and I just don't agree. I just don't think it is particularly good. It's fine. It's not Oscar worthy. It's not award worthy. It's fine for what the material is, which is garbage, but like I don't think it's particularly special. You know what? I will say Carla Sofia Gascon, her performance is okay too. That might be the one thing that is slightly defensible about it, is that she does a good job with the dog shit that she's been given, and I think her influence is the only reason that this wasn't even worse. But it's still not particularly great. Like, it's not that noteworthy, and unfortunately she has kind of been outed as like kind of a shitty racist person. So that's unfortunate for our first trans representation at the Oscars in terms of an actor being nominated at any capacity. But what can you do, I guess? You take the wins where you can get them, right? It's fucking bleak out here. Yeah, I don't know. I did short reviews for most of these, by the way, and this was one of them, so you can go watch that if you so choose. I also highly recommend Jesse Gender's video, The Racist Cisgender Nonsense of Emilia Perez, because she goes into it much more in depth and with much more patience than I would have had to get through this shit. That is all to say I don't like anything about this. And the music is horrible. But actually, you know what? The only thing I do like about this is the inadvertent camp value that it provides. I could see, like, this could be a fun thing to watch as a joke in the future with, like, other trans people or with other Hispanic people. That could be fun. But it's not good. And I'm just kind of aghast at everybody pretending, not everybody, but at the establishment, you know, in film criticism, at the Academy, etc., pretending that this is any good, because it isn't. Is that all I have to say about Emilia Perez? Okay, so that's the one dog shit entry in here, and then we're gonna move on to a handful of films that I really like, but I didn't quite love. These next two films are both 7 out of 10 for me. Next is a complete unknown, the Twink du Jour, Timothy Chalamet joint, about Bob Dylan. I think that this is fine as like a music biopic. It's not particularly creative or inventive, but it is, I think, wise in that it doesn't bite off more than it can chew, and it doesn't attempt to tell the story of Bob Dylan's entire life, such as it is and as it continues to go, right? It picks a very specific slice, a very specific intersection of his career that I think is pretty interesting, and I have no idea how historically accurate it is. I don't really care, to be honest. Like, it's a good story, it's a good performance, it's a good film overall, and the cinematography in particular I think is really beautiful. I love the aesthetic of it. I love costume design and the production design and the sets. I have to say that Monica Barbaro as Joan Baez is the absolute MVP in this, and my pick for Best Supporting Actress. She does all her own singing, and Joan Baez is not an easy singer to imitate. She's one of the greats. She's incredible. She's a very unique vocal style as well, and she just kind of nails it as well as have turning in a great performance. So, um, overall, this is just a really enjoyable music biopic. If that's your kind of thing, absolutely check it out. If you're a fan of Bob Dylan or Joan Baez, absolutely check it out. I just don't think it's particularly great or like magnificent or special or anything like that. So it's a good film that, I understand why it's receiving the attention it's receiving, but that's where it lands on my list. Okay. And number 8, we have Wicked. This is a film that I dreaded seeing. A friend of mine kind of dragged me to it, but I gotta say, I am pretty shocked at how much I actually liked this and how much it affected me emotionally. This is not a story that I have been familiar with in any capacity. I've never seen the stage adaptation. I've never read the book. I've never listened to the music, any of that. Um, so I just went into this completely blind. And I gotta say, I think other than the color palette, like the saturation, the way that it looks, I think is pretty dull and lifeless and pretty unfortunate. It's probably my biggest critique of it. Also, that the pacing is maybe not where it should be and it's a little overly long, but I think the performances are great. I think that the special effects more or less are great. I think the production design, makeup, hairstyling, all of that shit. The way the cinematography isn't particularly bad either. It really is just the aesthetic and the way that it ends up looking is just not great. But you know, everything that they were filming looks great. It's just kind of an unfortunate thing, I guess. I was not expecting this to be such a dark and dour and kind of bleak look at fascism and the ways in which privileged people will sell out the targets of fascism for their own personal gain and their own agenda. I honestly left the theater feeling pretty fucked up and feeling pretty upset and a little bit shaken. And I really wasn't expecting that. And you know what? The music is pretty good too. I think both the leads turn in great performances. There's a goat in it. There's clues along the way to tell you how much I love goats. Yeah, overall, I think it's pretty good. And I'm happy I saw it and I'm happy that it is receiving some recognition. I just wish it looked better. So, okay, at number 7, this is where we're getting into my 8 out of 10s, the ones that I loved and think are pretty special, but just didn't quite hit that upper echelon of the 9s and 10s. So at number 7, we have Conclave. This is a really cool, really gripping sort of potboiler, sort of soap opera about cardinals and popes and Catholic drama and this, that, and the other. It's about the selection process for a new pope, which a new pope. That's my new Star Wars parody about Catholics. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, I just think the script is really tight. I think the performances are all really good. I think the cinematography is great. I think the score in particular is really immaculate. It's kind of trashy. Like it has this sheen of like respectability and like prestige, but it's kind of a trashy thing. Again, it really does feel like soap opera shit, kind of like catty drama between all these fucking cardinals queening out. You know what I'm saying? I won't spoil it, but I love the ending. I think the ending is transgressive and kind of bold and offensive in the ways that it needs to be. And overall, I think that this is a delightful sort of fun film, and I had a blast with it seeing it. Yeah, that's Conclave. Coming in at number 6 is The Brutalist. This is a punishing viewing experience. Not just because of the runtime, although they were kind enough, thoughtful enough, considerate enough of our constitution and our bladders and our need to stretch our legs, such that there is a really lovely intermission built into this film. Which, Jesus Christ, can we just make that a normal thing for anything above 2.5 hours? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard. I feel like theaters would benefit from it. You walk around, buy some more concessions, everybody wins. Come on. This is a film that I kind of struggled with when it was done. Oh, and the way that it's punishing. I mean, emotionally, it's just brutal. That's no pun intended, but it's exhausting. Like it is such a it's a very epic, grand sort of emotionally taxing journey. at 3.5 hours. We watch over the course of generations these things transpire. I don't know. There's not a lot in the way of hope or easy answers in this film. It's politically pretty challenging as well. I think I'm going to be doing an analysis video of it. I had planned to do this a while ago and things got in the way, but I'll just go ahead and say that I think that this has a really interesting take on Israel and on Zionism, and it might not be the one that people expect because I think you have to sort of dig under the surface to really get at what it's trying to say. So I'm going to do an analysis on that. I guess let me know if you're interested. Encourage me to go ahead and actually make the video. But yeah, I think the cinematography is stunning. I think the score is fantastic. I think Adrian Brody turns in, I mean, a real career-defining performance. Um, I know that there is some amount of controversy with the use of AI in this film, and to be honest, I think it's a little bit overblown. I think the ways in which it's used are fairly defensible, but that's an issue that I continue to think about and go back and forth on. So I reserve the right to change my take on that in the future. But The Brutalist, I think this is one that I might like even more on repeat viewings. But as it sits right now, it's going to hang out at number 6 and at an 8 out of 10. Okay, so the top 5 are all 9s for me, and they might be 10s upon rewatches, but as of right now, they're all 9s. So at number 5, we have Dune Part 2. Just like Wicked, here's another one that I was just fully not anticipating to love as much as I did. The novel didn't grip me. The David Lynch film, not even my boy David Lynch could get me to care about this story. And the first Villeneuve film is pretty good. Like, it's definitely my favorite of the iterations of the story that I'd seen so far. But I was like, we're still not. I still don't love this. It's still so dense and so kind of mired in its own world building that is so much to catch up with for like a fresh viewer or a person who doesn't live in this world, which is by definition nobody. But this second one, god damn, like, I'll probably just repeat some of the things I said in my short review, but just from a technical perspective, it's marvelous. It's just shockingly good. It looks so good in a theater. I really hope they redo this in IMAX so that I can get a chance to see it that way. Score, performances, production design, visual effects, sound design, all of it is so good. And thematically, I think it's extremely complex and dense, and I think some of the character development could have been given more room to breathe, but we're already talking about a 3-hour film, so there's only so much you can do. I think that this is, I don't know to the extent to which this specifically was on the minds of the author of the original book, but like I think that this is clearly commenting on Palestine right now. I think that this is clearly commenting on the rise of authoritarianism and dictatorships and fascism around the world. I really love how Villeneuve was able to adapt a pre-existing work and kind of translate it into, or at least update it for modern political issues. It's a film that exists in the current time, and I think that that's really admirable. Okay, next is Anora. That's coming at number 4. Yeah, I think this is the front runner to win it all tomorrow, but we'll see how it goes. Sean Baker is a filmmaker that I've admired for a while, though I've only seen his film Tangerine. That's the only other film of his that I've seen, and I love that one. I like it more than this one, but this one was still excellent. It still lived up to my hopes, and it's like a really fantastic sort of modern screwball comedy, and I think it's hilarious. I think it is edited superbly. Like, the pacing is just on point. The writing and performances are on point as well. Like, it's just so endlessly watchable and entertaining. I don't know. I love this film. I think that it falls into tropes that it is purposefully trying to avoid. Like, I think Sean Baker has said that he's really trying to avoid the hooker with a heart of gold thing, or the whatever, these stereotypes about sex workers on screen. But like, that's kind of what it is, it's still kind of what it is. Without getting into spoilers, this isn't the most uplifting film that, you're likely to see, despite how fun it is and how many laughs it provides. At the end of the day, it has bleak things to say about the American dream and class and this, that, and the other, right? But I do think it succeeds for the most part in positive portrayals of sex workers. I'm going to go ahead and recommend, Girls Guts and Jalo did a patron-only episode reviewing this, and I think that they get into the criticisms of it really smartly and really well, the ways in which it has sort of failed as the portrayal of sex workers that it aspires to be. But overall, I still really love the film, and I'm looking forward to revisiting it sometime. That's my number 4. Number 3, we're going to go with I'm Still Here, the film from Brazil. This one is really just haunting and emotionally affecting. It's a really heartbreaking portrayal of real shit that happened in Brazil. It's about the military dictatorship and the disappearance of a former politician who had incorrect politics and who was helping people out and was punished for it. It's really harrowing stuff. It's really expertly shot and edited and acted. There's great child actors in this. There's really memorable and incredible performances from the adults as well. I just gotta say, I love the way this film looks so much. Like, it just looks so lived in, and it is shot with a love for the country and for the locations and for the people inside of it. It's just a really it's a beautiful story, even though it's a really disturbing and heartbreaking one. It's maybe a little bit overlong, but I, I I don't know that I'd cut anything. Like, I think it justifies its runtime pretty well. I don't know. I just love it. I almost had an anxiety attack in the theater. I cried more than once in the theater. It's just a really gorgeous, special, and important film. And I would be stoked if this won, but I don't think it will. But that's my number three. My number two is Nickel Boys. I can't get over how good this film is and how much I loved it. I think it was I'm glad it's up for Best Picture, but I think it was robbed on so many different categories. The directing in this, especially for a debut, is masterful. I think the way that it is shot and the way that it is written, where we're basically following from a point of view perspective of our characters, it's a bold swing, and it's one that I've seen not work for a lot of people. Also, I think a deliberate choice to look away from the actual acts of violence in the film is one that has been controversial, especially for fans of the book, but I think that it's a really bold and unique and interesting take on a sort of black trauma story, and I don't think it's any less heartbreaking or disturbing or harrowing because of the choices that it makes. There are ways in which it's even more so, I think. But the score is phenomenal. The cinematography is astounding. The editing is so good. The screenplay is incredible. And this is about real things that happen to real people. I'll be reading the book ASAP, but until then, I'm so glad that this film exists. I hope more people get to see it, and I really do think that this is a film that will be remembered for years to come. Okay. And then we arrive at our number one. If you are keeping track at home and you have successfully used process of elimination, you'll know that my number one is The Substance from Coralie Fargeau. I struggled a little bit. I was like, is this really my number one? I mean, come on. Is this the number one? I mean, Nickel Boys and I'm Still Here, they're so good. And they're such important works about like real shit, real atrocities that have happened. But at the end of the day, I have to go with my heart. And what I am at my heart and at my core and at my soul is a freak, a fan of cult genre films and huge swings and disgusting, nasty shit. That's what this is. I can't believe the acclaim that it's gotten. I can't believe how far it's gone. This would be maybe the coolest film to ever win Best Picture if it did win. I'm not holding my breath for that, but it is psychotic and deranged and insane. Uh, I think we've all learned an important lesson here today that we need to give insane women money to make whatever shit they want, to make completely deranged social issue body horror films, you know? I think the performances in this are so good. I think the editing and the cinematography are just on point. The makeup and the special practical effects are fucking unhinged and just completely delightful. I'm still just shocked at the success that this has seen, because watching this in a theater, there were parts in this that were a lot and like made me look away. Like, they were a little intense even for me as like a person who seeks out disturbing films and watches like completely deranged horror films all the time on purpose. Like, there's still stuff in there that is pretty gross. This is not really a film for the casual horror fan, but it seems to have been it seems to have broken past that glass ceiling of like really intense genre films. I mean, this is like if a Lucio Fulci film was up for Best Picture, you know what I mean? Like, that would be completely insane. Now, it's a little bit more than that because its social messaging and its themes are so on the nose and so relevant and of the moment. It's not subtle. Nobody will accuse this film of being subtle, and in fact, that's why I think a lot of people don't like it, but I don't think that's the point. I think Coralie Fargeau is just sort of taking the standards of female beauty and the double standards that women have to go through as opposed to men, especially in on-screen industries, and she's sort of like taking a mirror to all of that and then smashing it with her face. Like, it is delightful. It is completely insane. I'm just using the same adjectives over and over again, so I should probably stop myself at some point. I wrote a review on this for this on my letterbox, so go check that out if you want a more well-written take on this film. But I mean, especially those last 30 minutes are just, you just kind of sit there mouth agape, completely in disbelief that they're even doing this and that it is a section in a Best Picture nominee. I think that's a beautiful thing. And you know what? For insane women, deranged freaks everywhere. I'm gunning for the substance. This is my number one pick. Okay, thanks for watching. Again, if you enjoyed this, click the subscribe button. I will be streaming the Oscars tomorrow. Hit the like button. Leave me lovely comments to read. Share this around. Watch it again if you want. You know, whatever. Hit the bell too, I guess, if you want to. I'm not your mom, but do that. And again, if you think that the work I do is valuable, please support me on Patreon. Your support is really vital now more than ever, the way things are going. And yeah, let's not get too grim, right? We're here to have fun for now. Okay, that's it. I don't know. Until next time, remember that Satan loves all of their children. Bye. I'd like to take a moment to thank our newest patrons, Ingrid Francesca, Mallory, Erica Leduc, and Dustin Lewis. I'd also like to thank our accomplices, Anthony Listro, The Boogeyman's Closet, Carlin Cook, Dana Jordan Rothschild, Deanna Vave, The Disconnected, Dr. Jeff Butcher, Dustin Putman, George Strang, Julie Humphris, Nosferatu 1334, Phil Michelle, Sasha Babasha Soros, and Stephen Perkins. If you'd like to become amongst their ranks, the link is in the description.